It's signing day on Dog Post, and Georgia's going to wind up with a top three class. We'll have to see what happens in February before we figure out if Georgia will overtake Texas A&M, Alabama, and company to get the number one class in the country. Easier said than done with what's left on the board for the Dogs, bringing in Matt DeBerry. Matt, I thought it was a pretty good day for the Dogs. But that, as usual, you don't get everybody that you're after. And we're still, as we record this, we're still waiting on a little bit that's still left out there. But just overall thoughts, Georgia's going to wind up with the number three or so consensus class. Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia really just smoked the field here. The end of the three is tight, it seems like to me, and we're still waiting on a couple guys for Georgia.
There's a few guys who are going to make their announcements and sign in February, more than the last 2 years, if I remember correctly. But it was a really good day overall because they signed their big top guys that were verbally committed. They only added a big time player today, and it was a big one, 5-star edge pass rusher Marvin Jones Jr., a guy who's a borderline 5-star on most of those sites, and that was big. They needed to load it up with edge defenders. They have C.J. Madden, they have Darius Smith, who's still committed. He's a February guy, but adding Marvin Jones was huge for this class, definitely one of their top remaining targets. They did not get Kamari Wilson, but they did get Dalen Everett yesterday, and we talked about it. They got a couple guys on Tuesday that were originally going to be signing day guys, so you can kind of throw them into the mix here. But Kamari Wilson signed with Florida. Shamar James ended up signing with Florida over Georgia. So it was not a perfect day, but it is a very, very good class, especially in the secondary. This is one of the best defensive back classes you'll find on paper from any team in quite a few years. And I know the Georgia staff absolutely loves their secondary class. A little weak at wide receiver. Maybe they add Dion Bowie at some point. A little weak at offensive line. If they add Ernest Green, a 4-star interior lineman from California, that would be a big help. Lots of 3 and kind of low 4 stars in the wide receiver and offensive line group, and that's okay. You're not going to kill it there every year, especially when you bring in 5-star after 5-star on the offensive line. You signed with Georgia on the offensive line, you're not going to be playing much anytime soon, and you can say the same thing at receiver as well. But defensively, they absolutely loaded up. This is one of the best defensive classes in the country for sure. And that's kind of what we expected because this was going to be a very defensive-heavy class at the time. Like you said, they're going to be pushing for almost 30 kids in this class if they get the remaining guys. So still some question marks out there. But overall, this is about the defensive backs. This is about the front 7, the quarterback, a couple running, and the tight end that they wanted. So
we've talked a lot about Gunner through time, but he's sort of not even Mark. This is one thing that used to kind of like, if you want to piss off Mark Richt, it was day of what's going on, and you would scale back and not think about everything. Everybody's about just signing day, and it really can't be that way. You have to focus on what the class is. And if you look at the top of this class, if you want to call it that, sort of the consensus players, the top 6 players are defensive guys. We've both seen Malachi Starks a lot. Maybe we should talk about him. Just a lot of speed. So he seems like a safety to me. Could he grow into a small linebacker, or what do you think?
I think he could. Same type of deal that Alec Ogletree did. I don't think he's as thick and big as Alec Ogletree, but but Malachi is 200 pounds, and he runs as well as anyone I've seen at 200 pounds. The dude looks like he's lightning quick and just running by everyone, $170, $180. I mean, he is deadly with the ball in his hands. He covers well in the back end. He knows how to strike you as a defender, plays quarterback and running back for Jefferson just because he's the best out on the field by a mile against everyone they played. So he definitely needed the ball in his hands, and he makes a lot of plays. There's a reason he's a top 15, top 10 player in the country. I guess he's probably not outside of the top 20. Just depends on where you have him. But we've seen him a good bit, and he is the absolute real deal. And the thing that I like the most about the secondary that they brought in is these guys have size and they have ball skills. I don't think there's a defensive back that they're bringing in that's under 6 feet And a lot of these guys, Jaheim Singletary, Dalen Everett had 11 interceptions as a sophomore. Malachi Starks, we know about his ball skills playing on the offensive side. Marquise Groves Killebrew is wide receiver and returns kicks for North Cobb. So these guys are athletic. They've got ball skills, and they're long. They're all 6'1" and up. I think maybe Killebrew is like 6 foot even, but still, those are long, athletic defensive backs and some of the best in the country. So you got to be really happy tonight if you're Jamil Adai and Kirby Smart and I guess Glenn Schumann and Will Muschamp now as co-defensive coordinators, because they have a lot of talented defensive backs coming in.
It's a very good group. I mean, Singletary and Everett. Let's talk about them for a second. I mean, you're talking about guys who are 6 foot, well, higher than 6 feet tall and over 175 or so. I mean, well, specifically Everett is a pretty large kid, and Singletary is a tall kid. Both top 30 consensus players. Look, they cleaned up defensively, Georgia, and I mean, we can talk about that. Bear Alexander is. I mean, when guys like, and this is the wrong way to put it, but when guys like Branson Robinson and Gunnar Stockton and Oscar Delp are afterthoughts. Where's the camera? I mean, I think they've done. It's a very good class. Um, it's always part of it is who did you not get? But man, I mean, I don't know. I think they got quite a good class here, and for Georgia, it's just like Texas A&M. They'd have to take this and win national championships with it. Texas A&M can't win 4 games with the class that they just signed, or excuse me, lose 4 games the class they just signed. Georgia needs to start converting these into national championships, and a guy like Barry Alexander is going to have an opportunity next year to play immediately. I think Singletary and Everett probably will too. Now, and Mikael Williams will, I would think also. I don't know how Malachi fits in immediately. I bet he'll play. There's spots, but there's no one player
Yeah.
on here you're like, hey, they got to have that guy.
Yeah. Well, I do think they're bringing in more size at safety, too. I think Dalen Everett's going to get a strong look at safety. I was told the Georgia staff didn't mind losing Kamari Wilson to Florida because they got Dalen Everett the day before. And he's like 6'1", pushing 6'2", 185 pounds. That's a really big cornerback. So it does make sense that he might move inside, help against the run a little bit, come and play in the box and blitz. I mean, a fast 185-pounder hitting a quarterback without being blocked is going to hurt. And
You have to wonder.
again,
You have to wonder how many schools, and I guess I could look it up, signed 3 5-star defensive backs in this class. Those are the type of guys that can play, Matt. Right? I mean, they can, if they're good enough, they'll play right away. Boom. DBs. You don't have to develop DBs as much.
Yeah, if you want to win national championships, you have to score quickly, efficiently, fast, and through the air. And if you're going to stop it, you need guys like 6'2" Jaheim Singletary with a long wingspan, a guy like Dalen Everett who can go snatch the ball away at the highest points, and guys who have a lot of potential, and then a playmaker, Malachi Starks. So defensively, this is one of Kirby's all-time best. And again, that's what they wanted. They wanted more defensive backs. They're going to sign a lot of them, and they signed a lot of defensive linemen and edge defenders as well. They had a plan, and again, they didn't get everyone. No one does. And there weren't as many fireworks today as there usually are. I think Alabama and A&M had more signing day fireworks. But if a guy like Gunnar Stockton committed to Georgia on signing day, it'd be one of the biggest deals. If Oscar, a 4-star tight end, committed today, it would be a really, really big deal. So it's always great to sign the guys that you've had verbally committed for months, sometimes years. But it was not the crazy Kirby Smart signing day that we're used to. But at the end of the day, I had another 5-star, and there's still plenty of guys on board. So this class is not full. It's not complete. And there's still, I want to say a handful. How much is a handful? 3 or 4, I guess less than 5 is a handful. So there's still maybe a small handful of spots left. So we'll see where they go from here.
Well, so one guy that Georgia's biggest pickup of the only pickup of the day, if I'm not mistaken, Marvin Jones, he is not signed that I can tell as of 7 o'clock signing day night. I don't know if there's any reason to be concerned or anything like that, but he's one of the best players in the country, and that is a big pickup for the Dogs for sure too.
Yeah, 6 6'4", almost 6'5", 245, lightning quick off the edge. You can't teach long arms and wingspan. That's something you have it or you don't. You can't teach 6'5". And he's got those quick, violent hands. If you go back and watch his film, I mean, he gets off blocks with ease. He's not doing it just with speed, just with power. He's got some finesse to his game, and he's doing it down there against some of the top programs, not only in Florida but in the country. He's not going up against some scrubs every week. He's going up against offensive linemen who have D1 offers, and he's beating them left and right. He's a guy who shot up the rankings. I know a lot of people who just moved him up, the rankings on all these sites, and it's because he did grow and he did develop at American Heritage, and he did dominate more and more against D1 caliber players. So there's a reason Georgia went after him very, very hard at the end. They got him on campus for the official visit this past weekend with his mom over, and I definitely think that looked at Georgia's depth chart and said, hey, I could probably play a little earlier at Georgia than I can at Alabama. Where Shamar James, he's going to play quicker at Florida than he is at Georgia. That's just how it is. Kamari Wilson is going to play at Florida at safety before he plays safety at Georgia. So I get it for sure, but focusing on the guys that they did get, Marvin Jones is an excellent pass rusher, one of the best, and that's exactly what they're looking for. They're going to be without Adam Anderson, obviously, without Nolan Smith. We still don't know if Mikael Sherman is going to live up to the hype. We know he has the potential, but need some of these younger guys, Xavier Sori as well, to really step up and be those elite Wolfpack, Azeez Ojulari types who can really get after the quarterback.
What do you mean first round guys? In watching him, you can't ever pronounce really guys. You shouldn't pronounce guys, first round guys. He has the capability to grow into that. He's got the length and so forth. So as we're talking, Marvin Jones makes it official. So he is in the boat right at 7:00. So that's one less thing to concern yourself about. But really long. We talked about the secondary, but when you look at the guys that they've signed on the defensive line, just these three, Williams, Alexander, and Jones, that's a good start. And you're pairing them, Matt, with just in this section of time, for sure with Jalen Carter, Stackhouse, Brinson, Logue, Jefferson, Dean, guys like that. I don't know if Trayvon Walker will be back or not. Probably not if he's a first round guy like it looks like, but it's just the core of this team is really good. And I want to get to the offensive side of the ball, but you were going to say something else.
Well, Sean Washington, too, I think stuck with Georgia over Florida, the 3-star interior defensive lineman from New Orleans. And then, of course, Christian Miller is a guy that I saw. He probably had one of the best performances I've seen from anyone in the high school game that I saw this past fall. So I think he's leaning Georgia's way, too.
Yeah, so in watching him, he's from near where I grew up, and saw him this past weekend or whenever it was, not that long ago, and really, good. Not, I wouldn't say unstoppable, but but I think he's a guy that he's not dominant right now, but on the college level, I don't know if he would be dominant or not, but he has the ability to cause a lot of trouble on the high school level, and that's the level he plays at right now. The guy that stuck out to me the most during the Cedar Grove Appling game was the edge rusher for Appling, who's going to sign with the Dogs in February as it stands right now. But he was very twisty and all this stuff. I mean, Carlton Madden was played for Cedar Grove in that game as well, and they're accumulating the parts that you want. You need all of these pieces, and you need 11 of them to fit on the field at any given time. And we've talked so much about the defense. I don't want to over focus on the defense. I feel like we have to have the one more obligatory Gunnar Stockton moment in time. He's still a prospect for the next couple of weeks. He grew on me over time. At first, I have some skepticism, and I think we should all be skeptical of quarterbacks going into the SEC. I think it's a challenging place to really play well, but he just made a lot of plays over and over and over again. And when he was younger, I was worried about his size, but someone who's a college football assistant said to me, "You don't like him? Like, why don't you like him? He's consistent with the ball. He's accurate with the ball. He makes a lot of plays." And I was like, "Well, he's not real big. I mean, that's my only issue with him." But after a while, it's just like, does that matter that much? I'm not sure that it does. And I'm not talking about Stetson here, but I mean, Johnny Manziel was not really a very big person. Gunnar is much larger than him. So I do worry a little bit about durability with Gunnar only because of his style of play. And to say he's not real big is to actually should be said he's not overly tall because
Oh, yeah.
he's certainly big.
He's got some muscle in him
Mhm.
too, and he can run through some tackles.
Mhm.
And he's going to try to do that at Georgia. And we've obviously seen Kirby loves the fact that Stetson can run, so he's
Yes,
probably
but
itching to
Stetson's not
get
running people
there.
over. I mean, that's the difference there. Oh gosh, you just froze. I'll get you when you get back. Stetson's not running people over, which is kind of my concern with. Uh, that's my concern. That's my only concern, I guess you could say, about Gunnar Stockton is that he will have to change the way that he plays a little bit. But he's coming to Georgia to play quarterback. He's not coming to be a running quarterback. He's going to play quarterback, and that's a good question. I think how high is his ceiling? Is he because both him and Brock Vandegrift both are guys that have somewhat similar styles. They both have the ability to throw. They both have the ability to really hurt you with their legs. Vandergrift's is more with speed. It's strange with Gunnar Stockton because with Gunnar, it's more about, it seems like quickness and power, which is like a weird combination. But if you've never seen Gunnar Stockton play, then it's hard for me to kind of explain um, the combination of everything that he is. He is accurate with the ball. He does do a lot of side to side, but they will hit you with a deep ball too. And that's the thing about Gunner that I think people are going to be excited about. He's an accurate passer. He can get the ball down the field, Matt. He's not going to consistently try to run you over. He has that in his arsenal. So does Brock Vandegrift. But at the end of the day, and I think this is going to be the question for the near future of Georgia football, which one of them can play quarterback better, and which one of them gives Georgia the best chance to win? Is it Gunner? Is it Brock? In the recent past, you and I both thought it was Brock. I don't know now as much. I don't know. I'm not as confident about
They
that.
they both bring a lot to the table, but the one thing I think Gunner might have the advantage of is he is a quarterback first, but when things break down, he can take off Johnny Manziel, kind of make a play out of nothing, and then take off for a big run. Even when the defense does their job and covers everyone they need to, he can really take off and they get pick up 2 yards on a 4th and 1, 3 yards on
It's
a
like a
third and
cat.
two.
Like he's got
Yeah,
like a sixth
yeah,
sense or something about him, where
yeah,
you don't have cats, but like they kind of can feel something and
yeah.
then like they move around. That's what he's like. He can feel the pocket very well in a way that I think Vandegrift, it's not as natural for him. But I think Vandegrift's more raw, so there might be a higher
Yeah.
upside. I'm not picking sides on that whole deal.
Yeah.
Tell me about Oscar Delp. You've seen him a lot. He's from your neck of the woods. What's Georgia getting?
They're getting a big dude, 6'4", 225, who runs like a deer and can run routes like a receiver. He's excellent in 7-on-7. He runs a great route. He's great after the catch. He's got big, strong hands. He plays the villain really well. Every time he played against another team in the area, they're yelling, screaming at him, doing the chants, and he eats it up. He makes play after play. had multiple game-winning touchdown receptions that I've seen over in his career. But there's not a lot of guys that size who can run routes the way he does. He can get open on his own. It's not like he has a guy dragged all over him and he uses his size and hands to make a catch in traffic. He can run routes and he can get open by himself. Yeah.
He was a real big priority for Georgia.
From the very beginning, we talked about him before anyone. And once the first offer from Michigan, Georgia was shortly after, then they all came. But Todd Hartley really won him and his family over very early in the process and stuck with him. And they were able to land him. And he's in probably right now. And he's going to help them prepare for the Orange Bowl. And so he's ready. He's physically ready to play. I don't think he's going to have a crazy Brock Bowers greatest tight end freshman season of all time next year. But, man, those two are going to really complement each other very well. Oscar is going to play a good bit next year. You're not going to have John Fitzpatrick, I don't believe. I think he's been around 6-7 years by now.
Stay.
I think
he could stay if he wanted to.
He could stay
if he wanted to.
Yeah, but I do. Oscar's going to break that lineup at some next year.
Jalen Walker from Salisbury.
Jalen, versatile, man. I mean, he looks the part. He is all muscle. Coach's kid, tackling machine, can play inside or outside, can run, can hit. He was Gatorade Player of the Year for North Carolina in a shortened 2020 spring season. But he already looks like a veteran SEC linebacker out there. I mean, dude is chiseled, doesn't miss any time in the weight room. He's 6'2". I mean, he's got some height and length to him. A little bit of Quay Walker style to him. I think he's that type of player, but he can get sideline to sideline, not as fast as maybe Roquan Smith, Nakobe Dean, Monty Rice, and he can get after the passer. Maybe not as well as some other guys we've seen off the edge, but I think he's about 220. So he can do a lot for you. And again, his versatility, being able to play multiple linebacker positions as well as stop the run, get after the passer. I don't know if he can cover. I don't think he had to do a whole lot of that in high school. So there's still some developing to do there. Yeah. Always a challenge, but the guy tackles well. He hits hard and he's very smart. He's instinctual. He's a guy who I could see being, the leader of the defense, maybe team captain one day. He just has that leadership qualities, that X factor about him. The guy just makes a lot of plays.
The Dogs signed players from every state around the South, including North Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas. The only state that they did not sign someone from in that area is South Carolina, which is a little strange considering everything that's going on there. But the two schools that have really struggled this signing day, if Texas A&M took off, Clemson and Florida went the opposite way for sure. The reality on the ground at Florida, I think, is a challenging one. For Billy Napier and company, you cannot sign 10 guys. That's not going to work. I don't care. I don't care. That's not going to work. And then Clemson, this has not been a good 10 days. Dabo seems to be fighting against clouds. I don't know if he understands. And I poke at Dabo Swinney a lot because it's fun.
It's easy.
It's easy. Yeah. But bro, you got to get into reality here. You are not living in 2021 and 2022. Your comments on Florida's hard day, we'll start from there.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to Dabo. But as for Florida, you're right. You can't sign just that many kids. I don't know what it is exactly. I know they closed the day strong with guys who are going to have to start as fresh. They're going to really have to hit that transfer portal as hard as anyone.
They did close strong.
Yeah. But they had to, and they made it a point to try to do that. But still, they're going to have to hit that transfer portal hard. It seems like both of those ships are on their way down, except Florida's trying to get theirs back up, where Dabo is just standing on the ship, just drowning with it. We talk about Kirby Smart not really adapting to the crazy offense and airing it out, like Alabama and LSU in 19 and Ole Miss now, but yeah, Dabo's really not adapting. He wants to coach his way. He wants to win his way, recruit his way, and he just doesn't want to adapt. And sooner or later, it is going to really kill them. And they're definitely on the downslide right now. And after this recruiting class, it's not going to get any better. And if he doesn't shape up the way he coaches and recruits, it's going to be really tough for him to succeed in this era of college football. It's not the college football 5 or 6 years ago, Dabo, when it felt like you had everything figured out. Things are changing. Players can leave willy-nilly. Recruits can take other visits if they say they're committed to Clemson, and you can't just drop them. They have options, bro. So I don't know what he's doing, but he thinks he's better and smarter than everyone and has for a few years now, and it's really catching up to him.
Well, I mean, Missouri out recruited Clemson, Kentucky out recruited Clemson, Oklahoma out recruited Clemson. It's not going to work. I mean, the North Carolina out recruited them. I mean, Clemson. Excuse me, Notre Dame is not in the ACC, but they play Clemson consistently because of the combination there. That again, I said it earlier. Dabo is fighting clouds, and everything about new college football, people can complain about it, but Clemson is in a tough situation. It's not a big media market. The alumni base is not a wealthy one. And what I mean by that is it's not Michigan, it's not Texas, it's not Georgia. It's not got a huge alum base. So um, his delusion is noted, but it's not helping them get where they got to go. And I will say this about Clemson and other places too. You can't sign 13 guys. Like, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
I mean, Kentucky's going to sign 20, Michigan 24, North Carolina 20, 19, 17, Notre Dame 21. Get into reality. I think it was not an unreal day for Florida State, but at least they sort of recovered, and they were right next to Clemson in the consensus rankings. And Matt, I mean, those two programs are not in the same universe right now. I talked with someone about Florida State today, and the person's just said they can't do it right now. They're not prepared to. Clemson is about to get into a real new reality here, and it's not anyone's fault but Dabo Swinney's. He's got to get with it here.
I know they lost both coordinators. I get it. Georgia lost Dan Lanning and still landed a 5-star pass rusher who was in town for an official this weekend while it was all going on. When Sam Pittman left, he brought in Matt Luke, and they lost the kid who went to Florida, the guard. That's all that happened. And Sam Pittman was the greatest offensive line coach of all time. We thought it would impact recruiting. No, it didn't, because Kirby always has a plan as it relates to his assistants. I think he kind of likes it when his guys, come through and take other jobs. It means, he's doing his job well, and there's always someone else he has an eye on. So, okay, I'll go give this guy a shot. I'll give this guy a shot that I've known for a few years, so I think would be really good. So I think Dabo just promoted the OC and DC. I might be wrong there. And Kirby promoted Glenn Schumann, but Glenn deserved it, and he's an ace recruiter. I don't know if the guys that Dabo has promoted are that type of guys, but you can't lose that many guys and not recover even a little bit.
Here's what he said earlier this week. It's total chaos right now, talking about the transfer portal. Tampering galore. Kids are being manipulated. Grass is greener and all that stuff is supposed to be, as opposed to putting in the work and graduating. There's no consequences. So you've got agents and NIL tampering, and you have no consequences. No consequences equals no conscience. There's no reason for pause, no barrier for young people, like nothing. Education is the last thing right now. Hey, listen, man, listen. You're getting paid $9 million a year to win football games. If you want to be an educator, I think that's awesome. My whole family are educators. Go be a teacher. Go be a professor. Go do that. That's not what this is. This is about winning football games and getting paid $9 million in cheese every single year. You're not there to graduate. I'm sorry. And education means a lot to me, but I'm not a hypocrite. So it's time. Florida, tough day. Clemson, tough day, and perhaps a new reality. I thought Texas A&M had a great day. I thought Georgia had what could have been a really awesome day was an awesome day. So they only, but as we've seen, a little bit adds up. And for Georgia, they have got to close on a couple more of these kids, and they'll be right where they needed to be. But Matt, the biggest thing in recruiting for Georgia is coming up. The Orange Bowl and then possibly a national championship game. They've got to close the deal on those things.
Absolutely. Can you imagine Travis Hunter chose Jackson State over Clemson and did that flip, I think Dabo would have just lost his mind. I mean, it's crazy how far away he is from reality and what's going on in college football right now. He's just arguing and trying to yell at clouds, like you said, and make his case when the game is passing him, and it
He's Don
looks like it's
Quixote.
already
I mean,
past
he's
him.
Don
Yeah.
Quixote, man. He's fighting windmills. It's not a real thing. Get into
Yeah. I was never
reality.
yeah. I was never great at Spanish, but I do remember that guy, old Don, on his llama or the
Donkey.
armadillo, whatever he was riding. Donkey.
It was
Yeah.
not an
Yeah.
armadillo. It was definitely not an armadillo.
A
But
big one.
I mean, this is armadillos to donkeys. I mean, like, well, it's just a new world. And honestly, by the way, I can criticize Dabo. That's great, but Georgia has to prepare for its new future too. I've got something very long and in depth coming on Dog Post this weekend about the new future of college football, which is going to involve wrapping all of this stuff up. Tennessee has gotten its act together in a new challenging climate for the Vols for sure, but they are getting it together. You know, I mean, Tennessee had it, Mizzou, Tennessee, and Kentucky all had top 15 classes. I
Yeah.
mean, so
They know what they're
all
doing.
they know what they're
Yeah.
doing. So, I mean, it's not surprising to me that those teams are moving forward, particularly Kentucky. But everybody's got a new world here, and it involves paying players. And I'm just going to say this: Clemson for decades was an expert at paying players, so they know how to do it. Now everybody can do it legally. So just do it legally and figure out a new world. Auburn, Tennessee, Georgia, everybody's in a new space now, and no one's perfected it. And in a season from now, we might not have a December signing day, man. There's just no kind of telling what the future will be, and the future also involves, sort of rogue agents, if you want to call Deion Sanders that. He might not be at Jackson State next year. He could be at Florida State or TCU or somewhere like that. I'm not ready to hate on Deion, man. I mean, what Deion's doing is getting publicity for his institution that he works for and signing the players he wants to sign, however he's signing them. There are no rules anymore. When are people going to get this through their heads? The rules are there are no rules, and there aren't.
Deion Sanders has adapted to the college game more than Dabo has this past year. But I don't think he's going to be at Jackson State long. I mean, all this publicity they got, he's going to get, I don't know if it's a head coaching job at a Power 5, school, but people are going to listen and people are going to be intrigued.
I don't know why not. I don't know why not. If you were Missouri, why would you not hire Deion? Okay.
I don't know if he's a rah-rah guy like
he might
Dabo.
Not be the right fit.
I don't know if he can coach, but he can recruit and he can build brand awareness and help these kids get paid, which is what the kids want.
Yes, why wouldn't they? You think lifting weights is easy? It's not, as you can see.
No.
I just think we're in a new. I want everyone to recognize that we're in a new place. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I don't think Deion Sanders is going to coach or out scheme anyone, but talent can win you a lot of games. Yeah. And I don't think he's going to be there for. This might be his last year. This might be Travis Hunter's only year at Jackson State before they go somewhere else together. But
it wouldn't be a failure.
It
wouldn't. I mean, how is it a failure to accumulate money? I mean, I'll end on this. Everyone's a capitalist until it's someone else's money. Then we're all socialists all of a sudden. Let these kids get the money. If you don't like it, I don't know what to say. We don't have to like it. I mean, there's things wrong with Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, but they're rolling in, their beds are made of cash. So everyone, again, and I need to copyright that. Everybody's a capitalist until it's someone else's money. Then we want to control things. No. All right, Matt.
That's right.
I thought it was a good day for the Dogs. I think ideally you'd want to have the number one class. We'll see how this ends. We're not at the end yet.
Yeah.
The end is February. Which is kind of strange.
Yeah. Top 3 class, probably the number 1 defensive back class in the country, maybe the number 1 defensive line class in the country. Very, very strong class. Defensive heavy in a couple years. We're going to see a lot of the guys that they signed in this class making a lot of plays down the road. So some of these guys are going to be household names. Some of these guys are going to transfer after a year or two. That's just how it is. But there's plenty of talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball in this class.
We'll see you over on Dog Post. Thanks for watching.